Greetings all. Hey, hey. Can y'all hear me?
How are you?
Start in a second. Hey, Alan. Right, all right. It's Alan.
He's here. I know that.
I can't.
Oh,
Alan fell off. Right?
maybe just lost him. He'll come back.
Mic check. Mic check. Alan, can we get a mic check for you? Alan, mic check. Say hello.
It's hard to open. Don't spill it.
Alan, you there?
Yes.
Okay, put your video on. And
All right, we heard you. We heard
Andrea
you.
wants a mic check.
Okay.
All right, good, good.
Okay. I'm in.
Oh, what amazing space that is.
Yeah.
Hey, Stan. Where are you?
I don't know if he could hear.
Yeah. They wear headphones. Saundrea, it looks like you're in the subway.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the One Night Show. We are here. We are in the building. Let's get it started.
Okay, cool.
So greetings all. Welcome to the One Night podcast. We appreciate our viewership. We have some special guests from CICA in the house. You'll be hearing from them real soon. Have Stan Mars in the building. Stan Mars.
1 2 1 2.
All right, all right. My co-host of the Mostest.
Yeah.
Share, share, share. If you have it on, I hope you got a notification. Share the show. Share if you care, as we like to say. Also check in. Let us know where you're from. What borough? What development if you're a NYCHA resident? Come on, let's get engaged. Not married, just engaged. Sharing is caring. Okay, we got Brenda Temple in the room. Greetings from CICA, Far
CICA
Rockaway.
in the house, yes.
Awesome. It's 46 degrees, partly cloudy in New York City today. I'm doing the Rock Logic weather since he is not on the boards today, and it's me. Hope everybody's having a happy Sunday. Give people another minute or so to share, and then we're going to jump into our show. All right. We got 6 people in the room. They're still coming in. Share. Once again, check in. Let us know where you're from. We'll be monitoring the chat.
Good?
I'm laughing at you stomping your feet.
Oh, yeah, the music gets me going.
All right. Welcome to the One NYCHA podcast. I'm Saundrea Coleman, one of the co-hosts, co-founders of the show. Stan Morris is here. It's just us two kicking it today with our phenomenal guest from CICA. So we normally kick it off. We start out how our week has went, and we share that with you all. So I'll start out and then jump into you, and then we will go to our guests. So my week was busy and blessed as always, just, helping our residents. I teach bio writing on Thursdays. I'm jumping around now. Bio writing on Thursdays at the Isaac Center at 12 noon. It's a hybrid course. It's a volunteer, of course, but that's what I do. I attended a CICA meeting on Monday, which was great to be with my CICA family. They have, I believe, a bi-weekly meeting, but they'll correct me if I'm wrong. Just doing stuff in the neighborhood, of course, helping with the residents, feeding them, making sure everybody is doing okay. I also attended a city law breakfast with Alvin Bragg was on that. He was one of the guests. It was on Friday and it was an hour. And, Alvin Bragg, shout out to him. He will be our Manhattan District Attorney. He made history. He'll be the first Black district attorney in Manhattan County. We had him on our show, and hopefully we can bring him back on during his tenure as the district attorney of Manhattan. But other than that, I just, like I said, I'm busy with UES for BLM, just dealing with that, keeping the visual going. We're at day 470 today, Sunday. So it's 470 days since June 2nd of 2020. We're still out there doing that. And that's basically it. My week has been busy, but I didn't write down everything I did, and also working with some petitions that y'all will hear about also shortly from our guests. Been putting that out, sending it out, the links and stuff like that. And just working on booking and our future shows on this show, which is the One NYCHA podcast, and also our executive produced Stan show that we just closed down, Hip Hop, Health and Politics. And we had a dynamic artist out from Houston, Texas was on with us. And so just busy and getting things done. But I'm gonna jump into Stan and then we'll see about our guests. Take it away, Stan.
All right. It's definitely been a busy week with me doing work with the Justice for All Coalition. We've been having community meetings in Ravenswood every 2 weeks. Those meetings have been consistently well attended. and really getting the word out about the blueprint and making sure that the residents are on board to kill the blueprint. We do not want it, no privatization, any of that. And the residents came over to petition of their own, so we're circulating a petition as well to have folks sign on saying they don't want it, and I think it's very important because we're going to hand deliver these petitions to the elected officials that represent that neighborhood, that area, and we want them to be clear, that we don't want the blueprint, RAD, or any of it, so that was a good part of my week. And then yesterday I was out in Queensbridge. Big shout out to Nisi, Sugar Ray, Miles, Donnelly. We were out there giving away Cokes. We were giving away sneakers. We had great vegan food that was incredible that Nisi made.
Nice.
And it was really, really, really off the hook. And it was really good to see everybody. We did a lot of mutual aid work last year during the pandemic, and then it sort of slowed up, but to be out there with them again, yesterday it was like being out there with family. We had a great time. We fed the folks, and folks really appreciate it. So it's been a busy week, and I'm sad to say also I got some phone calls with people who do not have heat in Queensbridge, so now the winter time is coming. Those phone calls are starting to happen, and I actually knocked on the door of one lady. These are senior citizens, and they have no heat, and it's horrible. Not just that, NYCHA came, tore up a kitchen and tore up a bathroom, said they're gonna come back. They don't come back, so now she has no heat and barely a functioning apartment, once again, and it's just horrible, so we really got to win this fight. And when you think about people living like this, and NYCHA doing this on purpose to push a blueprint, to make sure these apartments are so horrible that folks would be starving for any kind of income to try to correct it, is really criminal on its face, so we really need to get this situation corrected, bring that money in from the Build Back Better plan, and fully fund NYCHA. Do not piecemeal it. Don't give it to us in a little bit. Don't send it over to Section 9.
Sound like me.
Right. You need don't send it to Section 8. Excuse me. You want that money going through Section 9, and make sure that we keep public housing public, So we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Not a victory lap, but I think we're on our way. I think we can win this fight. We're going to win this fight.
Like I said, sounding like me about don't piece that money into us. When it comes in, flush it in. That's
and put
what I've been
NYCHA
saying.
people, residents, at the table when those decisions are made to make sure it doesn't just disappear, because $30 billion could disappear in a heartbeat with NYCHA. We all know that.
Yeah. So once again, I'm turning right to the chat, and then I'm jumping into our guests. Hi, Suzette Ellison. We used to work out of the 19th together. One of my former colleagues, Deborah Rax from Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Audrey Churchill,
Audrey from Lafayette Gardens.
Oh, Kristen Parent. Hey, cuz. Okay, my cousin. Oh, okay. Good to see you, dear. Deborah Rax. Okay. Somebody wants to know what is Section 9. Okay.
We're going to get into it today.
We're going to get into it. Stay into this podcast. So now we're going to jump into our guests from CICA. We'll have Doug start off first, introducing himself, and then Alan, and, tell us a little bit about we kind of know because we work with you all, but, we're comrades. So we're in the trenches together, but let our viewership know about yourself first and foremost, and CICA, the work you're doing at CICA and what CICA is about. So we'll start off with you, Doug.
Okay, thanks, Saundrea and Stan, for inviting Alan and me today and giving us an opportunity to talk about CICA and also the Eric Adams petition campaign. I guess on a personal note, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and then was very active as a teenager, particularly in literacy work in the inner cities, and very active, although not in the formal civil rights movement, but certainly on the periphery, working for various social service agencies in Baltimore. I went to architecture school in upstate New York, became an architect, and then started to work in New York City, and then met Dr. Lenora Fulani in 1985. For those who don't know who Dr. Fulani is, Dr. Fulani is a political activist, a developmental psychologist who wanted to come up with a psychology that would address racism and poverty and be especially helpful for African American and people of color. So I met Dr. Fulani around the time that she was going to run for president of the United States,
Mhm.
and then worked on her campaign in 1987, 88, and again in 92 when she ran for a second time. Both Alan and I worked on those two campaigns, and Dr. Fulani became the first woman and first African American to appear on the ballot in all 50 states in the United States for president of the United States. Little known fact. And have worked with Dr. Fulani ever since. And then in 2015, we started the CICA, the Committee for Independent Community Action, began to work on this whole question of public housing and what to do, and to support grassroots leaders in New York to engage in that fight that Saundrea and Stan were just referring to with NYCHA to have decent and humane housing. So I'll stop there, turn it over to Alan.
Okay.
What's up, Alan? What's going on? What's going on?
What's up, Stan?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, I am like thrilled, almost speechless to be on this podcast with you and Saundrea. You know, Stan and I go back a long ways.
Yep.
I think he was just a teenager when
I was a rapper when I met Fulani, and she changed my life. Took me from being a rapper to an activist. She changed my entire life. Yep.
Yes. So it's just proud to see that we've built something that can impact our people in going forward with their careers and realizing their potential. I think that's one of the things that All Stars was built to do, is create these environments where people can grow and develop and realize their full potential.
Yep.
I think our culture, they don't put investment in our communities growing up, growing and developing. I think they just want you to get enough skills so you can work and make rich people richer.
Yes.
So I grew up in poor working class projects in South Jamaica, Queens. The South Jamaica houses, also known as the 40 projects. Incidentally, it's where he says he grew up. Our current mayor, Eric Adams, says he grew up in the 40 project, so that's kind of ironic. But I grew up single parent household, very poor. Didn't realize that I was poor because it's very humiliating to admit that fact, even though there were times when your shoes were flapping. They used to call your shoes talking, where the soles were so worn that they flap. And I grew up in the late 50s and 60s, and I didn't, I was, as I said, I had a single parent household. My mother did a fantastic job of raising us, and politics wasn't a part of our household. Survival was the basic part of our household, and I must admit, I don't, till this very day, I wish I had appreciated my mother more. So the 60s was the time of revolution, activism in this country and worldwide. And I think somehow that moved me to, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. But when I heard that there were people that dedicated their lives to making social change in their communities and in the world, something snapped in me. And I said, that's what I want to do. And I was on campus at BMCC at the time. Actually, I was there when Asada Shakur was there. She was known as Joanne Chesmar at that time.
Okay.
And there was a lot of community, activist work. We took over the building, and I think that enticed me, that and the work of King and Malcolm organized me politically. But when those movements died and were co-opted, it left me with not a vehicle to express my newfound political awareness. I recognize one of the things that the Panthers used to say is knowledge and awareness is not enough. You have to do something with it. Consciousness, awareness is nothing. They used to call people who were consciously aware and did nothing with it as armchair revolutionaries. So I knew I didn't want to be an armchair revolutionary. And I ran into people doing outreach in the communities. And through this newspaper, the National Alliance newspaper. And it was the newspaper that to me looked very much like the Black Panther newspaper. It related to our community, not as these, as major media portrays us as these out of control, how the Post and to some degree the news, and they all relate to us as not victims of a system that oppresses us. So the Alliance had that similar tone to it. And I looked into the programs that they had. And therein, I met Dr. Fulani, Dr. Newman, and others who were taking on the status quo. And that was in, I guess, 1985. And
Awesome.
the rest was kind of like history. I mean, I guess we can go deeper into what evolved out of that CICA as we go on in the program.
Thank you for that.
Amazing history.
Yeah.
Amazing history. Dr. Fulani is a lot of people don't know, but you're right. She's a pioneer of all that we're doing. Many of the organizations fighting against NYCHA probably would not exist without the work that CICA was doing. So big ups to you guys for really getting this thing moving.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to jump into all the talk about the petition that you are have going on, ongoing petition that is for the mayor, elect, and then he becomes mayor. It'll change to mayor. I do understand it's on is online, and it's also you can get hard copies of it. And I'll definitely share in the chat for people how to connect with it. But I just want to share too, because some of our viewership has heard a story from someone that lived in public housing, which is Alan, and all the stories are not identical. I grew up in public housing in McKinley houses, and I'm still a public housing resident. But for me, I grew up with both of my parents, and I didn't feel no way like poor. We had a vehicle. We went to Florida every year. We always went on vacation, either the whole family or if my father went, we drove, and if he didn't go, we flew. Disney World every year. So, I never felt like we were poor, because there was, in my household, we were blessed to have 3 streams of income: my father's salary, my mother's salary when she did work, and his VA check, so which paid all the bills. So we were a little, I didn't feel, maybe I was, but I didn't feel it, never had some of the issues. So, and I want people to know that public housing is a array of people from low income to moderate income. So And it's always been like that, right?
Right,
So
right.
I just wanted people to, hear that. And it was community, right? Because you grew up in public housing as
Absolutely.
well as
Mhm.
yourself. So, and it was community, and we had fun and we enjoyed one another. So let's jump into the CICA, the petition. Who wants to tell us about the petition? Give us some details about it. How can they get it? I'll drop it in the chat, but is there another way they can reach out and so forth and get all that done?
Maybe,
I just want to say, Doug, you could go into it. I just want to kick it off to say that we felt that the people of Niger in particular, and people in the city in general, are just not being heard. If they're being heard, they're being ignored. So we wanted to come up with a way for the voices of people who don't get a chance to be heard, to be heard. So this came out of our relationship with the community and our previous petition drive that we did. So I think that was one of the impetuses of doing this. And Doug, you can say more.
yeah, I think that's helpful. The petition comes out of the grassroots work of CICA, meaning that CICA is not attempting to get right politicians in office. It's not focused on the political officials. One is we're a nonprofit, so we can't legally support anybody who's running for public office. But what we have been doing, that Dr. Falani initiated back in 2013, was to create the CICA, Committee for Independent Community Action, that would support anybody in New York City to become a grassroots leader, to grow, to develop in the spirit of the All Stars Project. So it was created, CICA was created because there were adults who wanted to grow and develop as leaders in their communities. And so that's our focus. The petition came about, Alan was referring to an earlier petition where we collected 20,000 signatures on de Blasio to put a moratorium on privatization. We started that in 2015 and we collected for about 2 years.
Awesome.
Now we're faced with 67% of roughly of the city council, the mayor, and other political offices. They're all new. They're not incumbents. They're new politicians.
Right.
So it's a new day in New York. And given that Mayor-elect Eric Adams will be our next mayor, we also looked, that felt that he was the least partisan, perhaps the least ideological, and that we wanted to support him to do the right thing. And so we discussed having a petition that would essentially express the opposition, as Alan was saying, of New Yorkers, not just people who live in public housing, but people who recognize the importance of public housing. Public housing is the only affordable housing in New York City.
Yes, yes.
And that we recognize that we need public housing, that people in public housing are making an important contribution in New York City. They work, they have families, they have community, as Saundrea, you were saying, Stan. So the petition was conceived to reach out to New Yorkers, people in housing, people outside of housing, to define the kind of city, as Alan was saying, the kind of city we want to have in New York, that people aren't heard, or if they're heard, they're ignored, to give expression to that and to support people to build something in the community for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need it.
Just quickly, we're opposed to privatization, but we're also very supportive of resident management.
Yes. Okay.
Resident management that, if you were to really do privatization, for example, in New York City, and you were to do it fully, then the residents would be part of that. They would be in a position to fire and hire managers. They would be in charge of governing their
Right.
developments and buildings. Well,
Yeah.
you can't have it halfway. So
Talk
we
about it.
initiating this petition before Eric Adams takes office, and then we'll continue it after he's in office, to say that residents should be in charge of developments and buildings. And we shouldn't have privatization.
Yeah, and I just
Right.
wanted to piggyback off something you said around not only the residents, but the people of this city having a say in what kind of city this is going to be. Because if you look around the city, developers are going crazy.
Yeah.
They're building in every little opening
Inch.
you can imagine. I mean, if you know, like you see in Long Island City there in Sunnyside,
Yep.
Stan,
Yeah.
you see it looks like what, Metropolis, something
Yeah.
out of Superman
Yeah.
or something.
Yep. Yep.
All these glass high-rise structures. They want to build over African burial grounds.
Yeah.
They tried to build up over the botanical gardens, but people fought and beat that back. But the issue is, what kind of city is this going to be? A city that the developers are just going to do what they want to do? And I'm looking at this petitioning drive even bigger than just being a petition to Eric Adams, but it's a way that the people of this city can come together and build something independent, because the only way that these developers can do this is with the sanctioning of our elected officials.
Yeah.
Now, you know, they'll come to our meetings and say how outraged they are about this stuff, but this stuff can't happen
They have done
without
nothing.
their blessing.
Mhm.
So this is why we feel that we need to build. I look at this as a people's movement,
Mhm.
independent of the powers that be, a people's movement that will put the demands and make these people more accountable. And I think if we build this big enough, they you know, they could play like they don't that they're ignoring us, but when you got some numbers together, big numbers, they can't ignore that, because that's the one thing they're interested in.
Their votes. Their votes
Yes.
too. That's
So
what we really have to talk about.
and the issue of, you know, people are always talking about people coming together. This is a perfect way that the people of the city, residents, non-residents of public housing, and we've gone into white communities, and they were just as appalled as everybody else. You know, they feel that it's inhumane for NYCHA residents to be treated the way they are and used as pawns for the private developers. So there's a lot of support, and this is an easy petition. We've been out there, we've launched a petition, and people are very eager to sign something like this. So I want to build a people's movement in this city of ordinary people to take on, you know, the powers that be.
Yeah, it's essential that, you know, this petition is going out at this time, and in such a time as this, we need it. And also when, as you said, and we all know how overdeveloped New York City is, as overdeveloped as it is, we still have a homeless crisis.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
with all of this building, and people can't move in it, that's on the streets. People can't even move in it, that's in the shelters. I mean, what's going to happen? And then the moratorium is about to end.
Soon.
And January 15th, unless they extended it. Hopefully they do. Our elected officials do the right thing, because that's a crisis. That's a crisis on top of the crisis.
Yep.
We just had our court case. We, as some of you know, we sued NYCHA December 13th of 2019, residents of Isaac Houses and Holmes Towers. And I'm one of the co-founders of the Homes Isaac Coalition. And when we were in the court, our judge was actually about to let the case not close it down, but basically said, if there's any problems, I'm sure you all can get together and come back to court. So she wasn't going to give us a date.
Right.
So I wrote on an envelope, what about holding NYCHA in contempt? Because it's a virtual court case. And I put it up to my screen and my camera shot. So one of the attorneys for NYCHA was reading it out loud. And, it was kind of comical. And all of a sudden the judge was like, okay, let's look for a date in January. So if I didn't do that, if I didn't have the instinct to do that,
Right.
we wouldn't even had a next court date, because the main thing the judge was talking about, the courts are going to become flooded because of the evictions. You see what I'm saying? Thinking about evictions, why we are suing you all for repairs and so forth. But so I'm happy to support this petition. I know Stan is, and all of our viewership, hopefully, if you live in New York City, please sign. And, we're going to share how to get that done, and we're going to put it in the chat as well. And so I just wanted to share that, because we're in a crisis, and I tell everybody, NYCHA is the new Flint. NYCHA is the new Flint. No telling what kind of diseases and things that we are being stricken with living in our apartments with lead infestation, lead. People have infestation of, from rats and mice, or depending on their buildings they live in, mice, or if they live in a tenement building at NYCHA to go off. Some people have, sadly, rats. We had a lady on the show recently, mold, mildew, and let's not talk about asbestos that's in the buildings, right? That's in all these buildings, literally. But so I just want to just put that in there, put a needle in it.
And I like to say, as far as you guys chose Eric Adams as a target, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, it doesn't appear that he's a friend of NYCHA to me. It appears that he's already cozying up, to the billionaires and developers and trying to make friends with them. I also know he's very good friends with Donovan Richards, from the Queensboro president, who privatized Ocean Bay, and they're good friends, so I'm
He's
concerned.
a real estate guy.
And so do you guys, let me hear your opinion. Do you think that Eric Adams is on our side of the fight, and why did y'all choose him as a target? Or do you think he's with these billionaires?
Well, I think it's a great question. We're getting that question a lot. But I want to address that, Stan, but I want to go back to something that Saundrea was talking about, because Saundrea, you and the Holmes Isaacs Coalition led a very important fight to stop infill. And so in part to recognize that, and then here, Stan, is kind of what I want to, how I want to try to answer your question. Mm-hmm. So in Holmes Isaacs, there were, in the infill project that Saundrea and the coalition stopped, there were to be 339 new market rate apartments. And the contribution the developer was going to make to Holmes Isaacs for repairs was $25 million. So just keep that in mind, $25 million to Holmes Isaacs.
Yeah.
Gowanus up zoning, the rezoning for Gowanus, which is going to introduce 8,500 apartments to the Gowanus area. Eric Adams said, as borough president, I want $300 million to go to the Gowanus housing.
I saw that.
However, that number's dropped to $200 million. Now, if you take what Holmes Isaacs was going to get for 339 apartments, and you do the math and you go, well, what would that be for 8,500 apartments? The number should be, whether you agree or not with this is overrated or underrated or not enough money or too much money, would be 625 million. So Adams came out for 300. He's now saying 200. It's undervalued. It's a drop in the bucket for developers who will be spending $4 to $5 billion and making much more money than that.
Right.
So we don't know. I think the answer to your question is we don't know, but you can bet if 50,000 people were out on the streets, or 25,000, that would change the calculus.
Yeah.
If we not only got tens of thousands of signatures, but people got organized and went out on the streets.
Yeah.
It will change. So we didn't want to come at this with targeting Adams in the sense of, we don't think you'll do this. We wanted to say, here are thousands of people who support you to do the following. Now, if he doesn't do the following, we got to figure out what we want to do then.
Organize.
Organize.
Well, we gotta call him out.
Yes.
That's what we don't
Organize
do
it.
on this show. Is call that. Call him out.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and he
Organize
will
and
be
watch.
he will be exposed.
Yeah.
And people historically, all the stuff that we have today, we didn't get it because the powers that be were philanthropists or they were willing.
And fight for it.
We fought for this stuff, and I always say they felt the rumblings from the grassroots, and we forced it on them whether they liked it or not. And I think we're in a great position to do that in this situation as well.
Yeah.
I always, the thing that I say that I love is in when you have to relate to somebody that you don't like, is to get them to do what they don't want to do, but they have to do it because it's in their best interest is to do it. So
Right.
I feel great pleasure in making people do, and particularly these people who are in position, make them do what they don't really want to do, but they have to do it for their own existence. So I think this is a great opportunity to do that, and an opportunity to bring all sorts of people together in the city. They're always talking about people coming together. And I think this is a great opportunity to do that. And with the leadership of poor and working class Black folks and brown folks in the projects leading the way. I find that very powerful.
And middle class. Let's not make everybody, please don't make everybody dirt poor in public housing, because they're not.
Well, I'm just
we gotta make
I'm just saying
down on us. They think it's
our
really
community who don't have a voice leading the way.
Yeah, because there's a lot of our first responders, from corrections to teachers. I mean, you name it. I come from NYPD. I supervise payroll. A lot of us, social workers, you name it, detectives, cops. A lot of people. It's a multitude of people. It's mixed income.
And that's who we found that's been signing the petition. Those people. I just like the notion of us, leading the way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In fact, that one of the things that enticed me to be part of the New Alliance Party was when Dr. Fred Newman, Jewish, I say revolutionary, came out publicly saying, we're doing this because we're following the leadership of the Black community. We're following Black leadership, in this fight for empowerment. So I want to continue that, that sentiment in this fight, in this battle for the city.
Absolutely.
We have to continue to fight, because nobody's going to give us none. Just want to let y'all know that Rock Logic, I'm in Rock Seat, and I'm usually on the other side. And we just did a show and my name was above my head. I just realized it says Rock Logic. We didn't get to shift it. That's okay. So, but anyway, so Rock, you here in spirit. But I just want to put a pin in what Doug was talking about with the infill proposal. That was the fight that we had at Holmes. That $25,000 he was talking about, it originally wasn't even going to us. Originally, it wasn't going to us till we made noise and was, resistant. And that was a way of them trying to, okay, well, let's give them the 25,000. And I will also say I've been fighting privatization since, I said it again.
It was 25 million.
25 million, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, 25 million. I've been fighting privatization since 2015. And back then we were asking for $2 billion to save NYCHA as a whole. Look where it's at now. So that just shows that nothing has been done, not much. And money comes in.
Sure.
Money does come in, but it comes in pieced out, and $2 billion over 10 years, like that's nothing. We need $2 billion. We need the money to, whatever's going to come, Just like if this bill is finally passed, you know, officially, because I know it's probably going to go back and forth, we need that money immediately, all of it, every dime into public housing throughout this country. And whatever NYCHA is going to get, New York City Housing Authority, get it in, because people are suffering, you know, lack of heat, hot water. And I see private buildings that have boiler issues also. They have
Sure.
temporary boilers, but you don't even see that too much in NYCHA. People are just cold. Where's all, why are they not renting boilers for the residents? You understand what I'm saying? So it's just a lot. And we need this money really put in, and we need it managed properly.
Absolutely.
You know, we don't need it stolen like before. We don't need it mismanaged. And yes, that does go to Resident Management Corp. And we need pilot programs with that to see that it works, right? That it started here and a few developments throughout the city, and get it done and see that as a working model that works good, so we can manage, because who's going to take better care than you but you?
Right. And can you, for folks who are listening who may not know what resident management corporations are, can you talk a little bit about that, and also the training that would be needed to give NYCHA leadership so we could take advantage of these HUD regulated rights that we have to develop and manage our own buildings? So can you let folks know who may not know what a resident management corporation is, exactly what it is?
Doug, you want to, because y'all have all of that on your flyer too. So y'all want to jump into that?
So the Resident Management Corporation was created in 1971. The regulation number is 964.24. And then there's some other, that's if you Google HUD 964, you'll get there. But it was set up because HUD recognized that residents could do a better job of managing buildings and developments than the Public Housing Authority.
Yeah.
And so HUD wanted to give an option to, this is when Jack Kemp was the head of HUD, wanted to give an option for residents to essentially create a nonprofit that would be necessary to create a corporation, resident management corporation, and residents could take over as little or as much of the management of their development or building as they wanted to. And on top of that, HUD is required to provide money for training, expertise to the residents, so residents can learn how to do this.
Right.
It's been really discouraged by NYCHA. However, in some cases in New York City, as we speak, some residents are trying to create this nonprofit. It's very complicated. You need a lawyer to do it in order to stop RAD. So if your development is pursuing Resident Management Corporation under the HUD guidelines and have initiated that process, it's very difficult for NYCHA then to come in and privatize. It protects some degree, not 100%, Section 9 housing. Someone had mentioned Section 9, Stan, you had mentioned it before.
Sure.
Section 9 is federally funded public housing. Once it becomes Section 8 under privatization, it's, the residents are no longer federally protected. They have to hope that the private developer will enforce the laws. NYCHA will tell you, well, there's no change. No, there is change. New leases are written. You have to sign a new lease under Section 8. You don't take that voucher with you in many cases. The blueprint will not give you a voucher under the blueprint. And so no one's particularly protected. And evictions in Ocean Bay, since you mentioned, they've doubled, are twice as high as any eviction rate of a Section 9 non-private public housing building or development. So Resident Management Corporation, I mean, Alan and I have been talking about this for a long time because we feel that it's really important that we have more democracy, that residents are included in the full picture. If you're going to privatize and leave the residents out, that's not very democratic. And I know this has been a big issue in the United States currently about the state of our democracy. We think this is a very important fight for residents to be able to participate in. to exercise their right to self-govern.
Yeah. And I wanted to add that one of the things that we can do with this petitioning drive is to bring it more into the conversation about resident management corporations, because many people don't know it exists,
Right.
not been part of the conversation. Like during the a lot of the council races and the mayoral race, I think what we were fortunate to do was put this issue of privatization on the table.
Mhm.
I don't think they would have talked about it as much as they did if we hadn't pushed that issue. And the same with this issue. We think another thing that we could do with particularly newly elected officials and ask them, well, what about, everybody's talking about privatization being the only option. Why don't you have a forum and have people talk about resident management corporations? At least do that. We're not even going to ask you to not support privatization, because we know a lot of them are getting development money, but at least put it on the table, create a forum, and let people, experts come in and talk about it. So we want this to be part, and we think that this petitioning campaign can bring out this issue to be more in the conversation. I think that's a winner as well. And again, we'll see where people are at with that, and they'll get exposed as to who they are. I think a lot of what this petitioning drive can also do, it's kind of like the old litmus test.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see where our friends and our enemies are.
Yeah.
And it's so funny though, when I think about back at Holmes, the developer was Fetner, and the mayor was overriding the ULURP process. That's when it would go through the community board, for a vote and everything like that. But Fetner had also donated to this mayor's campaign, and he actually got that contract. So, I mean, it's the devil is always in the details. But also back to what Doug was mentioning about the RAD, when developments are converted to RAD, when they're evicted, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the apartment can be rented at market rate, correct? Is that, it can?
It can. It won't go up to market rate immediately, but it will. The rents will be increased, and the idea is that NYCHA has such a horrible manager. There's no way that NYCHA will oversee and enforce the rules that the private developers under RAD and the blueprint have to follow. What happens is, as you said, what happens on the ground? It's in the details.
It's crazy.
Are taking place, and NYCHA isn't showing up to respond to anybody, not to mention repairs,
right?
Then those evictions will occur, and the private developers will carry out those evictions.
Right.
They'll report as it benefits them to NYCHA about what they did. There's no oversight.
They want to make money. I mean, they want to make money, and they gave a little bit of refurbished items into the apartments, and and a new lease, and okay, you got to go. They want to make money, and if they could raise it up without any watchdogs, I mean, who's been holding NYCHA accountable? Nobody. I was on the worst landlord list in 2020, so go figure. I can't wait to see 2021. What it's going to look like. Nobody holds NYCHA accountable. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody gets terminated. They get to resign and all of that stuff and keep a pension, terminate them so they can lose their pension. They won't prosecute them. And hopefully this new district attorney, Alvin Bragg, if there's any criminality, he will pursue it because it'll be in his scope.
Well, yeah.
Yes. And it's no guarantee that even if the repairs are perfect and wonderful and brand new, that it's for the current residents. You know what gentrification does when you see gentrification come into the neighborhood,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, is it
Push
for
out.
that
Push
neighborhood?
out.
Or is
Right.
it for
It
the
ain't for you.
next
Yeah.
incoming folks? So
Can't
even if
afford
they
this,
fix it
can't
up,
afford
we
that.
want to make sure that it's for them and not some,
Mhm.
you know, some incoming grouping that can pay market value.
Right. And we seeing it already. I'm definitely hearing reports of buildings that have been converted and all the problems are coming back. You know, the mold comes back.
Yeah.
The leaks come back. You know, if you're not really going in and fixing the infrastructure of the building, you're just putting a what they say, a lipstick on a pig in a certain extent, and it's not working. We see evidence of it now.
They broke my wall in my bathroom. I had to, it was bad for a couple of months. This was pre-COVID. It's messed up again. So, I mean, now like I'm uncomfortable with them coming back in to do what they got to do, but eventually they do. And I had an inspection and nothing has been done. I spoke to the guy. I'm like, okay, y'all did an inspection. When y'all coming out, I don't have to. Well, I got to put a ticket in when y'all did an inspection and y'all documented it. Come on,
Right.
no. But anyway, we'll see.
We talk about what, you know, in the organizing process, what's an effective way to organize?
Mhm.
How do you build?
Mhm.
Alan and I have been working outside of the mainstream political establishment institutions for what now 40, 50 years to build
Nice.
something that is people run, people financed, people powered. And I think that's essentially the kind of direction that we think the petition is supporting, is not to try to work through the existing institutions only, but to build something outside of the existing institutions that would redefine the paradigm that New Yorkers who don't live in public housing don't care about New Yorkers who do live in public housing. But as Alan said earlier, that's not the case. We petitioned and found that out over the last 7 years. So going forward, I think the petition is really about attempting to reach out to all New Yorkers to support public housing, keeping it Section 9, and see where that takes us. And we don't know until we've been out there and seen that. But as Alan was saying, we've got to put resident management corporations into the public conversation and
Absolutely.
see what people want to do with that.
Now, how do people get involved with CICA? How do they get involved with working with you guys? How do folks who are listening to this show get involved with the petition?
Well, the best way is to email us, and the email address, I don't know if there's a way to put that in the chat for people to see, but it's CICA allstars@gmail.com. So we can, it's CICA allstars, one word, @gmail.com. So we can send petitions out to people. We can mail them. We can email them. People can print them. We have graphics, flyers to also send out.
Yes, who
Spanish.
made those beautiful graphics? Please, who did that? They're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You?
Doug did it.
You?
I do.
They're really vibrant and reads well. Yeah.
Mhm.
Good, thanks.
job.
Yeah, so we have that in English, we have it in Spanish. We're going to be reprinting the petition January 1 when Mayor Adams becomes Mayor Adams, or Mayor-elect Adams is inaugurated. And as I said, you know, we'll keep the drive going, but we can make all that available. So again, the email address is CICA Allstars, CICA ALLSTARS @gmail.com.
Great,
And
great.
we'll, you know, you can volunteer, go out with us and petition. You can collect signatures wherever you live, wherever you work, and we'll provide the information. We can send you a self-addressed stamped envelope for you to send us back the petitions. So
Nice.
we'll work all that out.
That's not beautiful.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
I put the email in too, is in the chat, and I also put the link for the petition sign in too with change.org that y'all have also.
yes, and we're looking at different we're in the holiday season. We took advantage of the Thanksgiving holidays to go to various housing developments that were giving away turkeys. And we petitioned during that period, and not only petitioned, but, you know, gave the information for people who wanted to help. So we even gave petitions out, and other people were taking them out. So Christmas is coming up. You might be having events, clothing drives or toy drives in different housing developments. And these are, and other events, community board meetings, tenant meetings. I actually spoke at a tenant meeting last week for us to be able to come in and, you know, make a brief presentation or in relation to the different holiday drives. We can come and petition, and you know, you can join us, and we can kind of show you how it's done. It, in a way, it's an easy sell. It is. It is. You know what? I was out on the street and I said something about privatizing public housing. The guy snatched my clipboard from me and said, "Oh, I'm gonna give me that, you know, and give me one to take with me." You know, so it's an easy sell.
That's good. I'm glad to hear people outside of NYCHA definitely joining the fight, because we're not going to win the fight with just NYCHA residents. We have to have all our allies and everyone else involved in this fight. And to know that if NYCHA goes, it impacts the whole city. It's not just NYCHA residents that's going to be impacted. It'll be the entire city. So this is a citywide fight. And I'm glad you guys have a big citywide campaign to address the issue. This is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely great. And for those who don't know, this CICA, I don't know if people know how big you guys are. I remember starting out with the newspapers myself, selling on the train way back in the day with my man Lawrence Davis.
That's
And,
right.
and now to see where it is now, I mean, to see you guys have a state-of-the-art, multi-million-dollar theater and just all the things, it boggles my mind, you know, that y'all took it from then to what it is now, you know. So for those who don't know, this is a powerful, you know, pioneering organization that's been doing this for decades.
Well, it's an example of what can be done independently. Of, you know, we didn't get a dime from the city or the government. We went out on the streets, on the trains, we collected dollars and change. But what we did was we took people's address and numbers and we got back to them. And now we have like a $1 million database that, that we
the All Stars project is an example of a partnership between inner city youth and middle class and affluent adults who care. And I think that has, we were told back 40 years ago when we started, the business community doesn't care. And I think, you know, we said, well, maybe you're right, but we're going to try to find out if that's the case. So we knocked on doors, as Alan was saying, stood on street corners. That's how we raised our money. That's how we built the donor base that Alan is referring to. We think of them as activists. They're not at an arm's length distance from the young people that we work with. They are in real partners. They work with them physically. These days it's more online, but you know, hopefully we'll return to in-person programming. It's that partnership which I think inspired Alan and me and others to think, well, why wouldn't it be the same with public housing? You know, why would we have a citywide, as Stan was saying, citywide movement, people who care about the only affordable housing. It should be decent. It should be working. As you know, we all know, people in public housing have propped it up for the city over all these years, have kept it horrible, horrible conditions. People still live there. So the city cares, and that's what we want to show. Left to the politicians, we'll never get that message out. But
Mm.
what we want to do is say, people care, and we want to build that partnership in this campaign.
It's beautiful, 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 beautiful.
Yeah.
We're about to wind down, and I know that is made up of different political backgrounds, but I would like you all to speak about the importance of the independence, which some of you, many of you are, and sadly how y'all are disenfranchised from voting in the primaries and stuff like that. And do you have anything set up to help fight that? I know Dr. Jesse Fields was in Florida working on something, I believe it was last year, but has it changed some? What is it looking like? Yeah, that would be good for our viewership to know before we close down.
You know, I think that's a great and important question. And I think doing these kind of citywide drives against privatization kind of exposes the what should I say, the inability, for lack of a better word, of our current political system to address the needs of our people. So when you start building something on your own, you come smack dab into the political establishment and its faultiness, or whatever the word might be, in being able to address this. So I think we have to, because politics and politicians do what's in their best interest.
Absolutely.
And I think an example of being independent is not in their best interest, because the last thing I think they want to do is have to be obligated or responsive to what the people want. They're more interested in getting elected as opposed to solving problems. So there are people who are out there working on the process, the political process that leaves out millions of voters like independents in the primary elections. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem logical to keep 1 million people from voting in all elections, is if they don't feel that more people will lend them to being less control. Because in a way, if you let independents vote in the primaries, they're going to be voting for Democrats. But I think the issue is what Democrat is, the Democrats that they control and feel as next on the list, or is it going to be insurgent Democrats? So there are organizations, independentvoting.org is one. I know, Saundrea, you've come to anti-corruption awards,
Yes.
and there is people to address that issue. And I don't know, Doug, if you want to say more.
Well, you know, in New York City, if you're an independent, meaning you're not registered Democrat or a Republican, you're an independent, you can't vote in the primary. Eric Adams was, the election Eric Adams participated in, only 28% of the eligible voters in New York City actually voted. 2 million New Yorkers are independent, or sometimes they call them blank. So they're not allowed because we have closed primaries. Our tax dollars are paying for the primaries, but I can't vote if I'm an independent in the primary. And that's where elections are determined. Usually the person who wins, at least in New York City, the person who wins the Democratic Party primary goes on to win the general election. That's why so few people vote in the general election. So we've been also working in our spare time to open up the primaries all over the United States, in cities where they're closed, and the Democrats, and we did have a ballot initiative during the Bloomberg administration to open up the primaries in New York City, but the Democratic Party came out in force to shut it down
Isn't that
because
something?
it would make the elections much more competitive, and they want to control who wins. So it's in California, primaries are open, elections are more competitive. You
That's
get
good.
more ideas in front of the electorate. You get combinations of people having to govern together that make innovation possible, that open things up. And that's what we've been supporting for many, many years. Just to go back to Dr. Filani's historic run in 1988, it was a campaign for fair elections and democracy that was continued in 1992. So she was ahead of her time,
Right.
in that effort. But we are, and the fight that Abrams is having in Georgia to reform elections and increase voter participation is seeing a lot of backlash. We've wanted to go even further and make the election process nonpartisan.
Yeah.
And so that you'd have to run under your name or with your party, but the party wouldn't have the column where it's Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. It would just be names on the ballot.
Yeah. One man, one
Common
vote.
sense makes sense
Let's
to
go
me,
back
right?
to one
Yeah, it
man,
makes
one
sense.
vote.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Get
to
rid of
me.
that electoral college. So
And just as a point of information, nationwide, independents are the largest voting bloc in the country. Between 40 and 45% of the elected, which makes it larger than the Democrats and Republicans. And we're in New York State, the independents are larger than the Republican. And registered independents are bigger than registered Republicans. So the American people are making a statement that they don't trust the electorate, the two-party system, and they don't want to be forced to join a party just to be able to vote. And I don't think so either. And I know many, that was another petition we had on the street, and we found that the majority of people, they don't feel you have to be forced to join a party just to be able to vote in every election.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's why we keep getting the kind of elected officials we get.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And if they can get elected the way they've been getting elected, they don't have to be accountable to us.
Right.
Because they know they got you in your back pocket. If they feel they got you in the back pocket, they could just dole out crumbs and keep moving.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know after primaries, and I was looking at, oh gosh, Eric, like, it was tough. Like, and I was like, okay. But then there was some independent mayoral candidates out there. We brought on thoracic surgeon
and
Roger Flores and Kathy, which is a school teacher and from PSL.
Yeah.
And, just to give people an option to look, because they don't get the media coverage. They don't get to go into the debates. And that's another thing, I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, it was quite a bit. Yeah. It's definitely a disenfranchisement. And I hope, I am a registered Democrat. Who knows what my future will hold down the road, but I would like fairness for the independents, really, because that's democracy.
Right.
And this is not, and this is sad. So, right. But, so we about to shut down. So thank you all for joining. Is there any last words y'all need to say before we close down this shop? One Night Shop podcast? Any closing remarks?
In the Eric Adams petition drive, however you want to.
Yes.
I want to thank you, Saundrea and Stan, for having us join you today. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I like that. Go ahead. You go first, Alan. Go ahead.
And I also want to thank you all. And I want to urge people to join us in building this people's, I want to call it a people's fight back movement,
Mm.
so that we'll have a city that when they developers or anybody else come in here thinking that they could do what they want to do, they're going to come up against a steady opposition by the ordinary citizens of the city.
Beautiful,
Right, all
beautiful.
right.
And I just like to say how it all comes full circle. My son and my daughter participate in the All Stars event. So this is decades going way back
Mhm.
to them performing in Lincoln Center. And so, I mean, I personally benefited, and now it benefits my kids. You know, so that's a great, great, great contribution you guys have made to the community. You know, and just please keep it up. You know, folks need to join and get involved because it changes lives. And I'm a person. I'm an example of it. So. Keep it up, fella. Keep it up.
Endorsement, Stan.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us today. Doug, let's connect this upcoming week. Alan, I see you. We of course stay connected on Facebook. Doug is not that lively on Facebook, so or social media. But
Saundrea, I want to ask you: are the people still coming out to the what is it, Shores Park?
Call shows, yeah, yeah.
Call
Day
shows.
470 today. Day 470 today. Yeah, we're still out there
Wow.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I want to come and visit them.
Okay,
actually,
come out
and
soon.
maybe
Yeah.
bring some petitions.
Okay, yeah, that'll be fine. We're out there and I have some too, and we spoke, but yeah, please come out. We're out there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday now. So,
And what's the number?
no, Carl Schutz Park, you're talking about. Oh, day
No, I mean the
470.
date. How many days?
470 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dedication.
Yeah.
So you have somebody who wants to come out to work with you at Queensbridge on the campaign. So I'll put him in touch with you.
Yeah, please. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
But once again, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you both. We appreciate CICA. I must say CICA has CICA or members of CICA, they have scholarship me to several events, you know, like, can you come? Don't worry, you know, and that's just been a blessing. Like just little simple things like that, wanting me to
Sure.
be in certain spaces and broaden my horizon. And Doug and I have worked on writing things and trying to push things out together.
Sure.
But yeah, so I love working with you all. Y'all are phenomenal. And you all have been doing this work for a very long time. And I highly respect, you know, CICA, the organization, Dr. Lenore Fulani and everyone that just makes it up, the All Stars and so forth, even the UX, right? The classes, the courses y'all do. I mean, y'all are just phenomenal. So we hope to bring you all back on in the near future. Definitely after y'all do the petitions, whenever, because it's ongoing. So that's good.
Yes.
When y'all get a nice amount of numbers, and maybe even I could, Stan or I or both of us, we could cover y'all taking it down, you know, delivering it. You know,
We can do that.
for one night because we are
absolutely.
media. So that
Cool.
offer is made to you all, and we're supportive. And please, if there's any announcements or anything you want going forward, y'all know how to contact us. And I would ask maybe Alan, since he's more so, but Doug, if you want to as well, engage in the chat when you finish later today or tomorrow. Just, you know, if somebody might have asked a question that you can answer from CICA, just, you know, click like or just say something in there to the people. No comment. We always ask our viewers, you know, our guests to engage with the people. So we about to lift off. So we say one night to one people, and we do this.
One night to one people.
We do this.
Yeah.
One night to one people.
One night to one people.
Yeah.
So we're lifting off. We appreciate you all. There you go. Doug did it.
All right.
Yes, that's my guy. He did it. All right, we out.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.